All right, let's talk about a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, one that's hiding in plain sight right across the African continent. We're diving deep on this one.
Okay, here's a question for you. What on earth is the link between the Korean beauty craze and traditional African medicine? I know, it sounds kind of random, right? But the answer? Well, that's the key to unlocking a huge, underdeveloped market.
So for this explainer, we're digging into clinical development in Africa, and we're getting our insights straight from the experts, Chego Mosiane of Reconnected Group Africa, and our guest, clinical development specialist, Dr. Anthony Otigbu. Their conversation really opened my eyes.
So, before we get into Africa specifically, let's set the stage. We need a global benchmark. I mean, what does a truly world-class product development industry even look like?
You just have to look at South Korea. I mean, their multi-billion-dollar beauty industry didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It wasn't an accident. It was built on a solid foundation of, you guessed it, scientific research and clinical development. We're talking years of super rigorous studies to find and prove out the active ingredients that make their products so amazing. That's the gold standard.
Okay, so with that benchmark in mind, let's shift gears and look at the state of play in Africa. And honestly, the difference is, well, it's pretty stark.
Get ready for this number. Out of over 76,000 clinical trials happening all over the world, Africa accounts for only 1%. Just 1%. Let that sink in for a second. And this chart really just drives the point home, doesn't it? Look at the volume of trials in the US, Europe, East Asia, and then look at Africa. It's completely dwarfed. This is a huge, huge gap in research infrastructure and, frankly, in investment.
And Dr. Anthony Otigbu doesn't mince words. He says, to be perfectly honest with you, Africa isn't there yet compared to the high-resource countries. It really comes down to that lack of infrastructure.
And here's the thing. Even within that tiny 1%, it's not spread out evenly. The activity is really concentrated in just a few places. We're talking about South Africa, which gets the lion's share, and then you've got Kenya and Uganda. And that's mostly because their public health systems are a bit more developed. So what's the big deal? Well, here's the crucial takeaway. Without their own strong research engine on the continent, innovators in Africa are basically forced to be reactive. They have to wait for research done overseas and then try to work with it. And that really limits their ability to innovate, to create truly unique products, even though they're sitting on this incredible wealth of natural resources. But okay, this isn't just a story about what's missing. That's not the point. This is actually a story about a really powerful, really unique advantage. The kind of advantage that, big tech and tons of money can't just easily copy. So, that brings us to the big strategic question, right? If Africa can't compete head-to-head on fancy labs and giant budgets right now, how can it win? What's the secret weapon? How does the continent forge its own path?
Well, the answer isn't in a lab. It's actually in a story, a really powerful one that Dr. Otigbu shared from his travels to a remote village in Nigeria.
So picture this. He and his research team are there, and they run into this massive swarm of bees. Everyone starts to panic, except for this one elderly woman from the village. She wasn't afraid at all, just completely calm.
And what she did next was incredible. She just walks over to a local plant, plucks a leaf, crushes it up in her hand, and rubs it on her skin. And then she walks straight through the swarm. Untouched, the bees just moved right around her.
What everyone just witnessed was a 100% natural, incredibly effective bee repellent. This wasn't something you'd find in a scientific paper. This was knowledge passed down for generations. This, right here, is the untapped gold mine we're talking about. And there's a term for what that story represents. It's the power of indigenous knowledge systems. And don't let the term fool you. These aren't just old wives' tales. They are complex, deep bodies of knowledge, practices, and beliefs that communities have developed and sustained for centuries.
And this isn't just some abstract idea or a one-off story. Let's look at a real-world case, the resurrection plant. It's a botanical that's been used in traditional medicine for ages. Well now, after being studied, it's a super prized ingredient in modern beauty products all over the world. Why? Because of its amazing hydrating properties. That right there is a clear path from local knowledge to global commercial success.
Okay, so this is all fascinating, but what does it mean for you? If you're an investor, an entrepreneur, or a business leader, how do you actually tap into this? What's the strategic playbook?
All right, let's break it down into 3 key steps. Number 1, you've got to secure funding. And you need to target the right kind of funding. Think impact investors and VCs who get the long-term vision. Number 2, you have to bridge the cultural divide. Let's be honest, there's a long history of bias against traditional knowledge, dismissing it as unscientific. That has to be overcome. And finally, number 3, play the long game. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a capital-intensive industry, and building trust and real expertise takes time.
And speaking of funding, it's really important to know who you're talking to. See, private investors, they're usually laser-focused on one thing: return on investment, commercialization. But public or institutional funding, their priorities are often different. They're looking at things like public safety or solving neglected diseases. Knowing that difference is absolutely crucial for finding the right partners for your project.
Look, navigating this whole world, the culture, the science, the capital, it's complex. It's a maze. And that's exactly where getting expert guidance is a game changer. This is the sweet spot for a consultancy like Reconnected Group Africa. They live and breathe this stuff, using deep research and market intelligence to help businesses build strategies that actually work on the continent. So, this all leaves us with one last, really big question to think about. Because the story of the bee repellent, or the resurrection plan, that's not just a lesson for Africa. It's a lesson for all of us. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What kind of treasure is hiding in your own backyard, just waiting to be discovered?